Welcome to Sun and Fun 51, more fun in 51 here at the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. I'm Ben Coleman, one of your hosts for Florida Aviation Network, and we bring to you compelling information during the midst of Sun and Fun, the proper. But there's a lot going on at Sun and Fun that is more than just the spike of a 1 week a year. And it's so important to realize that the educational aspects going on at not only the Central Florida Aerospace Academy, but the Aerospace Center for Excellence. And with us, we have somebody here that knows a little bit about what goes on at the Aerospace Center for Excellence. I think he knows more than he lets on, but he just dribbles out information just to tease us with stuff. But I want to welcome Eric Crump.
That sounds about right. Sounds about right. I know a few things.
Eric, there's a lot going on this week.
Is there?
But there's.
What do you mean, Ben?
There's a lot more going on throughout the year.
Yeah.
And that's what we were just kind of batting it about before we got started here today. I'd like to peel back and learn not only what's going on, but what we are doing to entice the younger folks in our community. If not community, we're talking to the world right now. Do you realize there's more than 8 million people looking at that tally line right now? That's us.
Right.
Not to get you nervous or anything.
Buddy, I've flown into Chicago and New York. It takes more than that to get me nervous. Come on, man.
But we got to get these guys and gals tuned in, and we've got to get the old timers, the folks that don't have any hair, and folks that still have color in their hair.
It's sort of there.
You are getting a little bit of gray.
Yeah, it's multicolored.
You're seasoning.
I'm saying, right.
But we got to find out ways to do this, and that's one of the reasons I think they pulled you in with your background, and you've kind of been around the block.
But I was one of those kids.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, nobody in my family was a pilot. Nobody in my family knew anything about aviation. We had no aviation career-oriented people in my family. But I loved airplanes. I thought it was just such a cool, like, how does this thing fly through the air? It still amazes me today. But I think the thing that really pushed it over the edge as a very young person, I was not into school. Like, school was not for me. I would have rather been cleaning porta potties than be in a classroom. Just not interested. And as a result, like a lot of kids, I got in trouble a lot. So I was in the principal's office all the time, constantly getting it at school and getting it at home. You know, I had parents that cared and they wanted to see me do better, but I didn't see any purpose in school. I was a C and D student, just kind of eh. By the time I got to middle school, my friends were progressively getting worse too, and so they were managing the drug trade in the middle school while I was the lookout outside the boys' bathroom, making sure the teachers didn't come by.
The spotter. And
I think, you know, looking back on that, it's, in hindsight anyway, it's a little humorous, because even then I knew I could do better than that. I just didn't have any motivation to try, I guess. But my parents, they did care, and they said, you know, if you could just make the AB honor roll for 1 quarter and stay out of the principal's office, we'll buy you a flight in an airplane. I was like, challenge accepted. I'm going to make that happen. And so I did. 2 things happened. One, I made the straight A honor roll. And for the first time in my life, realized I wasn't stupid. I just was unmotivated. And then the second thing was, after I took that flight the day after my 13th birthday, I realized there was nothing more I wanted to do than to figure out how to do that. I wanted to learn how to fly. And so normal kids got an allowance. I got 1 hour of flight time per month if I did my chores and stayed out of trouble. And then I mowed a lot of grass and washed a lot of cars for the rest. But 5 years later, and 98.6 hours later, I got my private pilot certificate.
Good.
It took a long time as I'm going through school. So, when I talk to our students here who are in the scholarship program, who are starting, down the pilot track in their high school teenage years, they think I'm the guy at ACE that, runs the scholarship. And I'm like, I used to be you. I learned to fly in high school too. And I didn't have a scholarship. I mowed grass and washed cars and begged for flight time at the airport. So I think that's the key is understanding, like you said, for the older people too, what got you into aviation? Like, what was your spark? What was the thing where you were like, yeah, I want to do that? Chances are, I know maybe a few decades have gone by, but kids are still looking for a spark.
Sure they are.
Right? And so rather than just think, well, I've done my time. I hear a lot of people say that. I've done my time. I don't know about that attitude, man. I don't think we're ever really done. I think I'm privileged. I have a fantastic opportunity to be able to give back what was given to me. And even if it wasn't a privilege, it's still my responsibility.
Sure.
You need to do it whether you want to or not, because this show is fantastic. Even the first day, we're halfway through the first day, and it's an incredible show. It's so much great stuff going on here. But if we don't encourage kids and we don't plant that seed, we won't be doing this 50 years from now, because there won't be anybody who wants to do aviation anymore.
And speaking of aviation, do you know the folks that we just got back from outer space?
Yep.
You know where they got their start?
Where did they get their start?
Little airplanes.
Yep.
I'm pointing right now. I'm sorry, my
That
I'm
plane.
pointing at the little airplane. The systems, the structures,
Yep.
the training, the dedication, and really it's time and it's resources that manage. What's the most precious thing that we have, Eric? It's not money.
No, it's time.
It's time.
It's time. I actually had a friend that used to say, you spell love Time. You're talking about with your kids, well, I bought them this nice gift. Well, that maybe they like that gift, but if you want to love your kids, you need to spend time with them. And I think the same thing is true when it comes to aviation. If you love it, then spend time being good at it. Spend time getting better at it. Spend time devoting yourself to mastering it. Don't just be good, be a master. What does it take to, like a Jedi, like move from Padawan to Knight to Master, like work your way up through and really become a master of the machine. But that's going back to that concept of, I had my time, I did my time. I don't love that mindset at all, because I think if you really loved this thing, I don't know, I never see myself unplugging from aviation, either in doing it or in learning about it or sharing it with other people. I can't imagine a day where that would happen.
The education aspect and school, I had motivation. My motivation was, back in my day, the principal there had a paddle.
Oh yeah.
And
my elementary school principal had a paddle too. Let me tell you something.
And he had drilled holes in his paddle
Right.
for more effect. And I only had to do that one time.
It took
And I
more
was a
than
quick
that with
learner.
me. It took more.
I was a quick learner. You're a slow
that.
learner. You're a slow learner.
Right.
But it took one time to. I don't enjoy this, therefore I'm not going to do what I did to get back here again. And also there were girls at school, and that was, I enjoyed
Well,
it.
that's part of why it took 5 years. Also, I got a little distracted there between 16 and 17. But
the golden years.
I found my way back to the airplane. There were other competing priorities.
But and that's another reason, and right now, and I'm going to segue a little bit into women in aviation, is it is so refreshing to have ladies get involved in what has typically been a predominantly male industry.
Well, this school in and of itself is a testament to that. With 29% female population in a STEM-focused school. First of all, even if you're not talking about airplanes, you're talking about less than 6% of the total pilot population that are female, and 29% of this school is made up of females. And I think, every year that number goes up a little bit. And I think that's great. I think it does. My wife's a pilot. When we both attended Middle Tennessee State University. That's where we did our formal flight training. But I met her there, and of the 180 pilots that I graduated with, when we started the program, there were 6 girls in the program. By the time we graduated, there were 20, which was, that was better than the 6 that we started with. And the weirdest thing happened to me. I have 3 children. I have 2 older daughters, and then we pushed the reset button real hard and started over 5 years ago with a boy. But the girls, I remember I wanted both of them to learn to fly. I think every parent who's a pilot, I don't want to force them to do it, but I want them to know if they want to do it, it's available to you. I want to take you flying. I'd love to teach you to fly. If you don't want to learn from Dad, I'm happy. It's fine, but I want you to know this is available to you. We were on a trip somewhere, and we asked my older daughter something like, would you ever want to be a? We're talking about jobs and careers, and what are you interested in? And would you ever want to be a pilot one day? Do you think you want to be a pilot? And Harper said, no, that's a boy job. And I'm thinking, and I thought to myself, I kind of had this reflection moment, and I said, okay, if in my house, with my encouragement and my wife being a pilot, if my daughter still thinks it's a boy thing, then we have a larger problem to solve, right? Where did you get that from? Because it didn't come from here.
That's not the root.
Where did that idea come from? And I think it's the STEM in general has this problem, right? And I think if you look at success rates, I'm talking about completion rates in STEM programs, there's a lot of attractiveness to STEM programs to young women, and they want to participate in these things. What we end up seeing, and I mean, you can look at DOE data to see this, but so you see enrollment in and adoption of STEM, but a far lower completion rate. And is that there's no sense of community for me when I get in the classroom? There aren't enough other girls in the class? Or is it the attitudes of the students? Is it the attitude of the teacher? Is it where does that breakdown occur? And so thankfully we don't have to guess anymore, because the FAA did 2 separate research projects, one for women in aviation in general and one for the Youth in Aviation Task Force, put out this great report about early aviation exposure and the efficacy of those kinds of experiences. And unanimously, they both came back as they interviewed all of these people, what was the pivotal moment for you? When did you make this decision? What challenges did you face? And uniformly, it comes back, and it's especially for young women, it's that 8 to 10-year-old space where they need to be exposed to it for the first time. But way more than with their male counterparts, women wanted a mentor. They wanted a coach, somebody to look up to, somebody they could pattern and follow after. And so it's sort of like the aha moment. It's more than a guest speaker coming to your school. It's more than going to a Young Eagles Day and seeing a couple of female pilots there. It's a concerted effort, especially for our young women, to have people that they can ask questions of. And I think the Women in Aviation organization has done a fantastic job over the years with their Girl in Aviation Day program. We host one here.
I remember.
We had 900 people here last year for that.
Turnout.
It was fantastic. And I think things like that, more of those kinds of things, not just a guest speaker in your school, but opportunities for those young women to come back. And it's not just the young women. The young men need those experiences too. Because quite frankly, Ben, and you know this more than anybody, there's so many other things. I mean, you remember in school, there was shop and shop or PE. Maybe if your school had a band program, maybe there was band.
Yeah.
I remember in middle school we went through the rotation thing. We had to take art for a few weeks. Then we took home ec.
At your electives, and I loved home ec.
We went to.
I learned how to sew.
I learned how to make cookies. That was the best day of my life. I was like, wait, this is all there is to this? I thought this was like wizardry. So it was a great day. But then we had my middle school I was fortunate that we had a draftsman who ran an industrial program, but it focused a lot on desk drafting. So it was an architectural kind of thing, but I fell in love with the mechanical stuff. And so after my 9-week rotation was over, he kept me on as a teacher's aide. And for the whole 7th grade year and my entire 8th grade year, I was his teacher's aide. And once kids would sort of master the boards, I would take them to the back to the computers and teach them CAD. Because he was a draftsman and had come up in that era and had seen CAD before, but wasn't, and I like to tinker with stuff. So I taught the CAD portion in the back of the room and he did desk drafting in the front. And honestly, that experience was so important for me. not because of the content, which I loved, but because of him, because he invested that in me, right? And so that really, I think, was a huge, I recognize that as being a huge fork in the road for me.
And Eric, it goes back to time.
Yeah.
He spent the time, he dedicated the time
'Cause he cared.
to share that
Yeah.
with you. The middle school, tell me a little bit, this is something
Well,
new.
so that's why I kind of set that up with the age thing, because it's, our programming here at ACE, we talk about car seat to cockpit all the time, or cradle to cockpit, some people say.
Diaper.
Diaper, yeah, whatever it takes. So our story time program on Tuesday mornings, when we started it almost 3 years ago now, I would have been thrilled if 10 people showed up the first day. 55 people came the first day. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. And so we've kept that program going. Over the summer, we have to do it 2 days a week because there's so many people that come. The week before Sun and Fun, we had 349 people here for story time. And there's something about little kids, I'm talking pre-K kids now, walking to the Florida Air Museum, their mouths are hanging open, their eyeballs are bugging out of their heads. And I know I can physically see the little gears turning in their brains.
I can do that.
Right, the seed gets planted. And so, we've had a robust summer camp program for many, many years. We wanted to kind of close the gaps between like little kid stuff and big kid stuff. Of course, we have the scholarship program for our high school students and Lakeland Aero Club, and now having a new Winter Haven campus for CFAA, the other program going on the other side of the county. So there's a lot of that. So we got some stuff here, we got some stuff there. How do we fill the gap in the middle? And one of the places that we saw as being a huge place of weakness was real, purposeful aerospace STEM curriculum in the middle school segment. AOPA has done a fantastic job with their high school curriculum. They're all over the country now, thousands of high schools. They've put themselves in a place where they're sort of the go-to for high school. But we see a lot of times kids are going to show up in the 9th grade and they've never seen an airplane before. They don't know anything about airplanes. And especially with Gen Z and this new Gen Alpha, any kind of roadblock or any kind of thing that pops into their head where they feel like I don't belong here or I'm not going to be successful at this will make them go look for something else to do. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Here's something, maybe I can go this way or maybe I can go that way. It's actually a critical problem-solving skill. It's fantastic. They get a bad rep for being indecisive. I don't know that that's really correct. I think what it is, they're probably the most deeply rooted problem-solving generation of kids we've ever seen before because they're always trying to find another way. I watch my kids do it all the time. No, you can't do that. But what if I did this? No, you can't do that. But if I did this, then this thing.
At least
no,
you're thinking.
Right. But there's a critical thinking thing there. So we worked with AOPA to make sure that the middle school curriculum that we produced was not duplicative of what they're doing because I don't want them to have to do it twice, but did it really set them up for success? So particularly if you're a school district that already uses AOPA's high school curriculum, well, now here's a middle school option you can roll out so that your kids are more ready, more excited as just a direct entry into high school. So we beta tested our year 1 curriculum this last school year. We, in 20 schools, got a lot of great feedback from it. And I'm very proud that year 1 will launch to the world in August. We have 52 schools signed up in 4 different countries to use it, and I think that's a fantastic start. We're definitely getting there, and we're developing year 2 now, so it's ready for beta testing when the school year comes.
Well, I'm not as concerned as I was because I know that there's all this going on in the background. However, now we have the obligation to maintain the high quality standards. And to expose them is one thing, but now we need to show them in detail how to do things the right way.
Right. And that's why, especially for that age group, going with a project-based learning model makes so much sense. They want to use their hands. They want to take content that they just learned and immediately use it. Well, what better space to do that than aviation? I mean, it's very, there's a very, let's learn for a second and then do a thing. So in our middle school curriculum, the maximum amount of lecture time that you can have is 10 minutes.
Good.
So so we set that for ourselves as this is not sit and get, this is not sit in a room and be talked to. Here's the information you need to know, and then go and do a project. And so every unit in the course, in each course, focuses on a culminating project. So they're working on that throughout the entirety of that unit. And then there's obviously a year-long project capstone as well.
And I'm glad to hear that you have your limited lecture time, because I've gone to some of these training things. Death by PowerPoint.
Death by PowerPoint.
Oh no, that's a good way to turn somebody off. But Eric, I think you have some other things going on today, so we're going to let you go tend to what you do best.
Well, I've had the radio turned off for almost an hour, so I'm going to turn it back on and see what's going on.
Go check that out. Check your voicemail and
Yeah.
keep those steps up.
I will.
Because we got a little challenge going on here.
There's a slight step contest going on this week amongst the staff to see who can get the most steps. So I'm definitely falling behind today. I got to pick it up.
My money's on you.
It shouldn't be. I have a golf cart, so it's not going to encourage me to walk.
Oh, but you get one of those counters on the golf cart every time a wheel turns.
I hold the cell phone and I just kind of bounce it up and down, but it's not working. Ben, always good to see you, buddy. Thank you.
Eric, let's do this again sometime.
Maybe next year or before.
What a thought.
I know, it's crazy.
I'm going to talk to your boss at the end of the week.
Cool.
So see how he does his steps.
Have my people contact your people.
Okay. Eric, thank you so much for your time. And this is 51, more fun than 51 at Sun and Fun. And we're going to do this again, maybe in about another 30 minutes.